Chill at Kev's Video Rental. Books, movies, games. Chill at Kev's Video Rental. How do we sneak chocolate into theaters? Well, we have a few tricks up our sleeves. Chill at Kev's Video Rental. The last guy who owned this place died. His funeral screening at 12, 6, and 10 p.m. Chill at Kev's Video Rental.
Boo. Hello everyone, welcome back to my room. So today I want to talk about spooky games. I usually talk about horror on this channel, but I've got to be honest, if you give me a horror movie, I'll typically be fine. But when it comes to horror games... So tonight we're going to be sticking with games that usually have like a spooky aesthetic or at least horror adjacent. You know, the ones that give you more of a cozy, lazy weekend feeling, or ones that get you in the mood for October. So with that being said, let's start with number 10. Turok 2 may have been my first ever video game I was ever afraid of as a kid. You follow a warrior sent to defeat an army of heavy metal looking alien dinosaurs in an FPS style of gameplay. So as a kid I didn't have a memory pack for my N64, so guess what? Anytime my sister and I would try to play, if we died after going through endless suffering in our tragic rampage, we'd have to start over all over again from the very beginning each and every time. I decided to try it out again at my current age, and boy did time do anything to make this game more brutal. Luckily I have game packs, so I added in some cheats and yeah, now we can really play.
Child rescued.
Thank you, Turok.
What kind of child endangerment ring are they running here? What is it for? Are they just using kids as bait to lure me in to save? Turok Gate? Well, if that doesn't spook you out when you randomly hear it in the middle of the night, I don't know what will. I've noticed with most games from the 90s and before, I can't really enjoy myself unless I input the cheats. I could argue that a lack of memory packs is my excuse, so I'll go with that, but regardless, I'll always remember my early game nights with my cousins and my sister, taking turns either playing Mario Kart or Turok. Savage Halloween has to be my favorite arcade shooter in a long time. It's close to the style of Metal Slug, but with Halloween splattered all over it. It's actually a pretty good challenge, as it took me multiple tries to get the hang of certain strats in order to defeat certain enemies and their individual patterns. You get a couple of different guns to mess around with some 8-bit music that's very catchy. This reminds me of growing up during my elementary school days, when the world was much more grander and scarier from the eyes of a kid. You guys ever watch Monster House? It's one of my favorite movies of all time. There's a particular scene where the kids go ask an expert for help to defeat the main antagonist of the story, which is my guy Napoleon Dynamite hanging at his arcade. I don't know, I always felt like Savage Halloween fit the vibe of what these kids would be playing. It makes me feel like I'm part of some 80s movie where I have to defeat a house trying to kill the neighborhood. This is one of the best casual games to play during October, and especially on Halloween Day. Gets you right in the mood, and you can just jump in anytime. So, one time I must have been, I don't know, 8 years old when I went to GameStop with my dad. I picked up a case that I thought looked really cool. Turns out it was Twisted Metal Black for the PS2 with the character Sweet Tooth on the cover of the case. Another customer saw me pick it up and he was very excited that I was going with it since he had his own fond memories of the game. He said, and I quote, "Heck yeah, man! That game is so fun, it's very bloody, it's so fun, haha, you're gonna have a lot of fun killing people." Well, that's all I needed to drop the game and get Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit instead. This game was essentially my GTA. Yeah, oh, I know. But this game does carry a charm with it. So this is a game adaptation of the 2005 film by the same name, which if you haven't seen before basically goes like this. The iconic characters of Wallace and Gromit have a business where they have to take care of garden pests, in these cases, rabbits. It follows a similar plot to 1958's The Fly, where instead of a man being merged with a fly, Wallace and a rabbit get stuck in a machine that causes Wallace to slowly turn into a were-rabbit. Jesus! What kind of screwed up body horror were they showing kids back then? These kids are not prepared. The town you get to play in is quite spooky. It's large and easy to get lost in, while the autumn aesthetic takes over. There's lots of mini games you can look for while you follow the main story, and my favorite part, lots of hidden areas and secrets. I think I spent an hour just trying to hop a fence just to see if I could get to a river, and it worked. I love the mystery aspect of video games during the 90s and 2000s era, where you weren't sure if certain areas were out of bounds, and when there was an off chance you would actually get past it on your own, it was one of the most exciting feelings as a kid. It really spooked me. It's something about the town that makes it feel sort of Twin Peak-ish. There's a sense of dread crawling all over, and yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but it really hit me as a kid. Look. Just look. This game screams spookiness. I know most prefer the first two games, but I really do have a soft spot for the third installment. I originally got it as a dual package alongside Killzone 3, another one of my favorite PS3 games. There are segments that almost remind me of Call of Duty Zombies, just with the Ratchet and Clank weapon wheel mechanic. I actually miss these old school type of games in terms of having a health bar in which you have to find health packs scattered across the game to regenerate, along with having an arsenal of weapons you can carry with you at any time, instead of only being limited to one or two. Trying to traverse across the country, exploring different areas, and unlocking new weapons never got boring. Even with all the weapons, the enemies were balanced enough where you can still feel vulnerable. While the action segments are pretty sweet when you have a team to back you up, the parts where you're alone with little to no music, with nothing but empty environmental ambience, really make you feel like you've got nothing but yourself to trust. It's incredibly isolating, but it's delivered in a way where you feel badass and you want more of it. Frosted Tips. Bag of Cheetos before they cost more than 99 cents. Bullies. Yup, those were the days. I feel like that entire era was successfully captured in one game, Twisted Metal 2. See, after learning more about the franchise, I became less scared of it, and perhaps the guy from GameStop foretold a self-fulfilling prophecy because this game became one of my favorite games of all time. One could argue this franchise was like the first Battle Royale game before the genre became what it is in modern day. I'd say now more than ever would be the perfect time to make a remake of this game. It's essentially a free-for-all massacre, but with cars, and it is awesome. From the punk rock soundtrack to all the cool characters, it really is a perfect PS1 game. The stages are all unique, with each representing a different part of the world. Every character gets their own stats, weapons, story endings. This truly feels like an epitome of an arcade game, since there's practically infinite replayability. I mostly count this in the spooky category more so with my association with it. I've always pictured having a 90s themed throwback weekend. Maybe movie night with pizza, watching a few tapes, probably the original Child's Play, which I've already done a video on how nostalgic it makes me, then playing a few matches of Twisted Metal 2 afterwards. It reminds me of when I used to rent movies at my usual spot with my dad every weekend when I was a kid, and I feel like Twisted Metal hits that spot for me just right as a young adult. Alright, so I might be cheating here because I'm not specifically talking about a game, but a single stage within it, the laboratory stage with Second 4. I don't know what it is about this stage, but something about it just depresses me. It was like my childhood version of Silent Hill. It's claustrophobic with its tight spacing, a fog crawling everywhere. Even the music sounds like a splash of the early 2000s spilling over. The whole game carries a sort of tropical techno soundtrack, but this one, oh my god, it feels like we're having a fever dream as the world falls apart. Just listen to this. It makes me have an existential crisis. Give me all the tough questions I try to ignore every day. Where is my place in this world? Where are we all heading? Is there any purpose for any of this? Why is your breath hot when you exhale with your mouth shaped like a square, and cold when you shape it like an O? Did Stanley Kubrick really fake the moon landing? Where are Tupac and Biggie? I'm afraid these are the questions that keep me up at night. You know what? Let's do another N64 one. Oh, yeah, alright, one of my favorites, Midway's Greatest Arcade Hits Volume 1. I was born just in the right time to still be able to play some real physical arcade cabinets when they were more around. Places like the laundromat or liquor stores, Street Fighter, Tekken Tag Tournament, Puzzle Bobble gave me anxiety. Cabinets were on their way out though, so I got most of my arcade experience with home media. Enter Midway's hits. I loved playing Defender with my dad back in the day, and don't get me started on Root Beer Tapper. If you ever wanted an accurate depiction of the infuriating experience of working in retail, this is it. But oh hey look, another outer space shooter game. This looks like fun for all ages.
I just scared the shit out of you like 5 seconds ago? Yeah. Oh, that got me so good!
So I'll be the first to admit that I actually got addicted to how frightening this was. The little eerie melodies they play before each round creates a sense of dread. Almost like they're mocking you and knowing that there's no way out of this. The main goal is to shoot down asteroids to collect little orbs. Meanwhile, the enemy ships are also digging resources in order to build Sinistar. That's right. A spaceship-eating monster that can match the dread of Lovecraftian horror, where you can just look at the size of this beast and it can make you go mad. The orbs you collect can help you defeat Sinistar, but eventually, he always comes back. Just seeing the red screen when he's fully recharged gets the adrenaline going. What kind of sick nightmare is this? The gameplay is easy to jump into, and after a few tries you really get the hang of the fluidity of the ship, and you can't help but want to defeat Sinistar even more despite how frightening it could become. This is a really neat throwback that I think will last the test of time. One of my favorite things as a kid was the Goosebumps series. I mean really. No, I mean really. No, I mean really. So it's no surprise how excited I got when I learned they were making a Goosebumps video game taking place in HorrorLand. No, not the 1996 Escape from HorrorLand with Jeff Goldblum. Nah, I mean the 2008 Goosebumps HorrorLand on the PS2. You play as a kid who gets to explore around the theme park and play mini games according to what attraction you go for. The main quest is finding pieces of your original ticket in order to escape the sinister plans the park owner has for all the guests. There's not really a need to explain why it's on the list, just look at it. Everywhere you go scream children's horror, from Vampire Village to Fever Swamp. My personal favorite will always be Carnival of Screams, due to the Friday night schools out sunset aesthetic. I personally enjoy all of the minigames and would love it if the game was remade with modernized controls, since it definitely feels outdated and clunky in modern day. Actually, it already felt outdated since it came out, but I could gloss over that since this was my first experience with seeing something from my childhood revitalized in a different form of media, from a book to a video game. While I loved it on the PS2, I've heard others say they played it on their DS or their Wii, and honestly I can say the Wii would be the perfect console for this type of game since it's almost a reskin of Wii Sports. I got this game the same night I got Kingdom Hearts 1 for the first time, and I fell in love with both at the same time. I'd say it was an awesome night for little kid me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember back in 2010 absolutely despising Call of Duty. It was a bare-bones shooter that didn't really try anything unique. While I respected its history of the franchise, I just didn't give it my time of day. My friends during the time gave me a lot of heat for it, so I decided to give Black Ops 1 a try to at least have something to play with my friends. It was sort of okay at first, multiplayer was fine, the story was decent, but once I spawned in the first round of Kino, oh, well, let's just say I never forgot that day. Zombies has been the Call of Duty mode that has aged the most gracefully in my opinion. The controls are still solid and the gameplay is easy to get the grasp on the first few tries. The hard part is mastering how you maneuver throughout the game, as it's all about maintaining a distance from the horde zombies. This is really how an updated arcade game should be. It's all about trying to reach a higher round than you did the match before. You get power-ups, both temporary and permanent, ways to upgrade your weapon, and different areas and maps you can play in according to your liking. The original World at War maps are definitely the most memorable. The race is straight out of an 80s horror movie, with a factory in an abandoned residential area, as mist and fog slowly engulf the land. I have legitimately never gotten tired of zombies. Even when I play the updated maps on Zombies Chronicles on the PS4, I still go back to my PS3 because the charm in this one is real. I think the reason why it's so addicting is the intentions of the original developer's philosophy. The way we individually play is a direct reflection of how we sort of live our own life. Everyone starts in the same place. We're born. Some of us play more aggressively, some of us more patient. We can invest in things right away for the short term, or invest in larger things for the future. If we work hard and work smart, we can thrive. But no matter who you are, how far you get, how smart you are, how enduring you can be, every game ends the exact same way. This last game is actually sort of hard for me to talk about, and if you played it before, you'll know exactly why. No other game has hit me as hard as this one did. It's in my top 5 for sure, of all time, which is almost unfair to say because the other 4 will always mean something for me simply out of seniority. But maybe we can settle on saying this is my second favorite game of all time. Night in the Woods. It's classified as a 2D adventure game with tons of exploration, but the real progression of the story comes from choosing what line of dialogue you want to go with, coming from May, the main character. You get to explore a town with its own rich history and secrets, while meeting a plethora of characters that truly feel like real people. It's really hard to talk about the plot without spoiling it, and for those who haven't played it, I really don't want to ruin it for you. It's one of the most compelling stories I've ever gone through emotionally. There's many moments I had to put the controller down just so I could really process what was going on right in front of me. This is probably the hardest game I've had to go through, not because the gameplay is difficult, but because I related heavily with many of the characters' experiences. It deals a lot with critiques on how we cope with late-stage capitalism and how the youth suffers through defeatism and depression on being handed a world that wasn't well taken care of. It's a cross between a coming-of-age story with subtle horror elements, my personal favorite genres. The entire story takes place during autumn, with Halloween being a revolving theme, and let's just say, there are many haunting mysteries to uncover throughout your time here. This is the only game I've ever played where I wish it never ended. I wanted to see more. Let me go through winter, spring, summer, all of it. I'd love to see a sequel with these characters because of how attached I became with every single one of them. I will warn you guys though, to anyone who is currently going through a hard time, you may find this game hard to get through. Yeah, the overall tone is comforting, but there are so many moments that do get heavy. Maybe that's just me, maybe that's just how I took it. It could be more casual to others, by all means go ahead. However, I absolutely adore this game to death and will absolutely recommend it to anyone who's willing to try it. While it's a bit short, rounding up between 8 to 10 hours, it's meant to be played multiple times so you can see the different variations of how the characters of the town change based on the things you do. I think this game came just at the right time in my life because I first played it right around the time when I was going through something similar that May was going through in her story. And I'm sure many of us can relate to what the story has to offer, which is why whether it's the visual aesthetic or the premise of the plot that seems appealing to you or anything at all, I urge you guys to try it. Thanks for watching my personal top 10. I hope that can give you guys something spooky to do whenever October comes. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.